In our series of Society Fourth, we are talking today about payment and banking, and I'm doing that with my guest, Tjwan Oei.
Hi.
Tjwan, thank you so much for being here. We are here in the position of Society Fourth, and we're doing this series in the series of all different domains of Society Fourth. Your domain, what your expertise is in payment and banking, and you have a particular unique position in this because of your background in a payment system. And could you please tell a little bit about what your background is in that sense?
Yes, of course, Marco. I'm glad to do that. My interest in payment and banking systems came when I read a book about the perverse effects of interest, because the interest makes the rich people more richer and the poor people who are offered a loan keep under the line and keep paying the payment terms every year. And I'm very about social equality, and there are systems who operate without interest, and there my interest came from the banking and payment systems. I live in the neighborhood of Arnhem, and we like to act locally, and together with a friend of mine we built a community, and we use a local currency to flourish our society locally.
And so this is a digital coin that you've made, or how should people interpret that, a local currency?
Yes, we use a digital coin. So that's some people say, well, we like to pay with the old-fashioned banknotes or coins. But if you imagine what a huge logistical operation you have to make, the digital coin is much more convenient.
It's taken the form of a deer. You see many different coins, and it's like a token, right? So people like to give it like a kind of symbol. Why a deer?
Actually, the deer is a sign of Arnhem. So when you enter Arnhem, you see a deer on the top of the hill. But actually, in the Dutch language, the deer is hert. But in the Arnhem language, hert is also heart. And we would like to pay with from our heart to your heart. And so it has two meanings in Dutch, both heart and deer.
Well, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful sentiment to have that as a payment system, because money in this world, it's become very far away from us. But it is energy. It is energy that we give and that we receive. So it's a beautiful new thing, and it's very nice that it is also set up to be a local payment system. It's not for to trade with. It's not to speculate with. It's not to It's just for a local payment system. Now, why was a local payment system needed, in your opinion?
Yes, in the context of Society 4, we also like to have communities within a certain region, because we like to, not globally, but within a region. And within each region, we like to have a payment system related to that community as well. And the advantages for me and for our community members, that we know each other. We know if I pay you, if you live in Arnhem, I know also who transfer. I give the coins or the money to you, and you transfer to somebody else in the region. And in the end, it may come back in my wallet again, because we trade locally.
Yeah. So it's circular, and it's
Exactly.
all you hold each other in this system. You're connected with each other in this system, and that means that you're stepping away from a global or a national system. But for instance, we're in the European Union, so we are connected with all the other countries in the European Union with a euro that is. So it all becomes more massive scale, and it's very interesting to see that the solution that you saw is to go back to the local scale.
Yes, and we do not see it as a substitute of the euro or the dollar, but as a complementary system, because the power is now to the very large companies, and we want to balance the power back to both local companies and large companies. If I want to buy an iPhone, for example, or an Android, you pay in euros or in dollars.
Sure.
But that's not the only way to trade. I want to trade, for example, food or clothing. Arnhem is a fashion city. We like to make that as locally as possible.
What is the perspective of the banks on this initiative? I know that there's more. I think you call it a stable coin because it's related to the euro, I think.
Yes.
The value?
Until now it's related to the euro, because when we started, that gives money is trust, basically, and energy.
Yes.
When we started, the relation or the coupling with the euro gave trust to the people who became member. At a certain moment, we have our momentum and we can choose the value ourselves as a community. So, for example, if in the future something happens with the euro, the wars is going very fast, it declines very fast, we could choose to attach the value of the Arnhems Hertje to a basket of commodities, for example.
Right.
Food, energy.
Yeah. And then a basket of local commodities, the things that thrive, the strength of the Arnhem's tradespeople or commerce.
Exactly. Yeah.
And do you have any recoil of that from banking system who say, well, you're because the whole system is based upon not to have not to be based on interest anymore, not to be based on making payments anymore, but it's a system that's based upon sharing the wealth. And I'm not even sure if taxes get involved with the local currency. So you could almost say from the position of a existing system, that you look at that system, it's like, well, that's something that we don't have in control. So is there any recoil on that? Is there any resistance that you experience from that?
Yeah, Marco, you touched three very important topics: the tax, the point of view of the banks, and the interests.
Right.
Starting with the point of view of the banks, we are not against banks. So what we started from the beginning to have good relations with the Dutch authorities, that was 5-6 years ago. At that time, the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies were not as dominant as they are today. And in that time, we were allowed to operate conform the Dutch regulations, because we trade within our close community, we call it bartering.
Yeah.
And that's allowed.
Right, so it's a token for a barter system, and that was allowed under the Dutch law.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the first one, the point of view. So we were at that time, and we still are in good relation with the Dutch authorities, because we want to we want to not to be put aside as illegal or controversial.
Of course, yeah.
That's one. The second point, interest. When I started this journey 4 or 5 years ago, when I started with that book about money, I thought the interest is part of the money system. But my thinking evolved, and my current point of view is that I can set up a bank in local currency, Arnhems Hertje, and ask huge interests. On the other hand, I can also set up a bank in euros and ask no interests. So, in my point of view, it's the members of the community who behave in an ethical or non-ethical way, and not so much the money system as such. But having said that, a lot of community members who work with the euro are money-driven and interest-driven.
Yeah.
And the community members in the local systems, they are more ethical-driven. We want to have a community, share our wealth, and we don't want to ask money or interest for the lending of the money. So that's the relation about the interest. And the third point, the taxes. We have to pay taxes. I pay taxes because in a neutral way, I like to pay taxes because that's a contribution to our community. That I'm not always agreeing with the current way how it's spent, that may be clear, but in principle, taxes are not bad because it's part of sharing in the community. And for example, Dutch VAT, BTW, that's, we encourage our members. I say, well, if you pay the VAT in euros, you do it also in the local currency worlds.
It's an interesting point of view, because a lot of people who dive into this system would say, well, if I'm going to build a new system, I want the benefits of the new system. And so, in your opinion, what are then the benefits? Why would you want this new local coin, token that only exists digitally, that can only be used in your local area? So I cannot buy the iPhone with it.
Yeah.
Why? What is it that builds the trust within that system?
Yeah, basically what builds the trust are the community members themselves. And because it's in a closed community within a certain region, most times you know each other. When I buy my bread with my Arnhem local currency, I know the baker, I know the employees. I'm getting happy about the transfer we make.
Right.
I get local bread. It's bread biologically grown from the wheat, locally within the area of Arnhem. And they can, by giving my local money, they can pay their suppliers as well.
Yeah.
So that makes me happy, and that makes it worthwhile to pay in local currency.
Yeah, it's almost like being on board of the Titanic, but already sitting in the having a spot reserved in one of those rowing boats that they can lower down once it goes down. It's like you're still on board, but you have an exit option. Is that, am I formulating it in a way that people see it as well, or is that just my projection?
No, you could see it, and actually that is a nice comparison. But additionally, in the course of time, building such a money system, you have various stages. And the first stage, you have to build trust and then maintain that trust. And in the first stage of maintaining that trust is that when we acquire euros and give Arnhems Hertje for it, so
Yes.
local currency,
Yeah.
We put that euros aside, and it's by a notary separator. So if we cannot do something about, and if we come bankrupt, this money is still there. But if the euro happens something, then that deposit is worthless as well. And then we hope and expect, if enough people join the community, we have built such a volume of local members that we trust the money in ourselves,
right,
without the deposit in euros.
Yeah, I see.
And that's the second stage.
Right. And so that is something you prepare for, but that will only launch at the moment when it's necessary.
Exactly, and we are the community members, because every member is a member of the corporation, and we decide together.
Right.
So when and under which circumstances, and yeah.
So it is a corporation in essence as well, the way that it's structured, and how are the shares of the corporation? How are they structured? Is that according to the amount of tokens that you possess, or is there a different system?
No, the system we utilize is one vote, one member, one vote.
I see.
So
I see. Yeah.
If you own more local currency, you have no more rights.
Okay.
Regarding the decision making.
Yeah. That's that makes sense, because otherwise it would be very easy for it to be taken over by somebody.
Yeah, and then our members, because when I started, I thought the payment system, that is the Valhalla. Now I understand more that the community is the core, and the payment systems is only an instrument. And the community, when you want to become member of the Arnhem Hertje community, if you live in a neighborhood of, you may join us.
Yeah.
And we do not enforce certain regulations, how circular or how biological grown products you use or whatever. You choose for yourself, and you explain the community where you stay and which plans you have. So we call it, in Dutch it's not a keurmerk, but a kiesmerk. You are not being controlled by a third party on which regulations you conform, and then you get a sign of conformity. But you choose yourself, say, I'm staying here regarding circularity or biological grown products, and I want to make this next steps. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you're choosing to be part of a set of values instead of a set of values being
imposed,
put on the label and being imposed.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a very interesting, and it works. So that is good for people to understand, is that there's this idea that we all have to enter into a new system, and we all have to, a lot of people feel that they need to flee. They need to flee their assets or anything like that. But it feels like a much more balanced route away from a system that is very unstable and that will eventually probably fail.
Yeah, and that's basically what we do in all domains, and in this domain from payment and banking systems as well. In the regular world, we established as a community authorities, and they became so big and so distant from the community, there's a separation. And that's very difficult to repair, to get it back. So the most easiest way, and we choose for that, is make an example how it could be in the future that a community sets up the same authority, but in close cooperation, so that the authority is ruled by the community. And that creates trust, because it's our authority.
Yeah.
So if the members of Arnhems Hertje say, Tjwan, we don't like your position in Arnhems Hertje anymore, they can choose somebody else.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and normally our systems are gold-backed, or in the case of the dollar, it's a petrodollar, it's oil-backed, and in this case, the philosophy is no, it's community-backed. It's the trust of the local merchants that is where the value is.
Exactly. It's just the intrinsic value is determined and chosen by the community itself.
Yeah.
We trust this because we make a transaction.
Yeah.
And that's the basic the value.
Yeah.
Even in the regular world, which you mentioned, petrol or gold, gold back looks nice, but if we find a more attractive metal for making industrial conductors, because gold is used for conductors, the value of gold will lower. If you find a new planet with a lot of gold, the supply increases and the value will lower as well. So even the gold price has no intrinsic value, but is determined by demand and supply.
You don't have a background into banking or anything like that. Am I correct? Can you tell me a little bit about where your background is? What got you set into this idea system?
Yeah. Okay, a short introduction. My parents immigrated to the Caribbean, so I grew up on a lovely island with bounty white beaches, and with a connection to the Netherlands, I heard more than 1 million people demonstrate in Amsterdam against against the war, for example. I said, why? The sun is shining, the coconuts are falling, the world is perfect.
Yeah.
Then I came on my age of 18 to the Netherlands, and they asked, what are your left wing or right wing? And I didn't even know, because in the Caribbean you choose or you vote for persons, but not for ideas. So I didn't even know what left or right wing was. So they asked me to read the left wing paper or right wing paper and compare. And at that moment I understood, okay, I have to make a position because the community is different. And I started studying industrial engineering. That's very broad. It's mathematics, economics, psychology, sociology. So that is my background. Mm. And then I worked for 20 years for a large chemical multinational. A lot of pollution, but I saw also people, kind of naive house fathers who worked there. They did harm to the environment, but not by purpose, but they were naive.
Yeah, they were uneducated perhaps.
Yeah, in the sense of awareness what happens to the environment. And a lot of demonstrations were at that time against our company, and I lived also in a student apartment, and I came back late in the evening, say, you work at the most polluting firm in the Netherlands.
Yeah. And
at that time I made the decision, am I going to join the demonstrators outside, or am I going to assist this company in improving their sustainability insights? And I chose for the latter. And since then I did the same. So I want to build and not to shout. And shouting has a function. Mm-hmm. So both parts you need to get change.
Yeah. If people are not aware, then you need somebody shouting like, hey, something is going wrong. Yeah.
Exactly.
But then by shouting, you're not going to solve anything. Yeah. So you need actually somebody who says, I see the problem. Let's look for a solution.
Yes, and what happened afterwards, it has not with payment and banking systems to do, but how we build societies and companies. The company I was working at that time shouted, "Oh, we are in a bad position. Our competitors in India are in a much better position because they don't have the regulations the government imposes upon us."
Yeah.
But we had to continue, and now the cleaning systems we have is an export product for the Netherlands worldwide. So in a certain moment you have a disadvantage, but in the course of time you develop expertise which the world needs at a later stage. So that's in a time frame I see both the bad things but also the good things of even getting a pollution.
So it's like you commoditize the solution that you come up with. That becomes the most valuable thing that you then have to bring into the world.
Yes, and for our companies it was a spin-off, but some other companies took it over, and it's their core business to help other business worldwide to clean, to have more clean process of production as well.
Yeah. I really like that story. It makes sense that with that mindset, you look at our financial system, say, well, this is a mess to clean up.
Yes, and we are as humans, we are very traditionally when we are on a road track, even if we want to depart or have a new choose for a new direction, it's very difficult because our habits keep us on track.
Yeah.
For that reason, it's sometimes more easy to build a new system instead of trying to change the old system. So I'm not against the traditional money system, but in my opinion, providing a new system which is more attractive, has more advantage than the old, people at a certain moment will transfer. And now it's a small part with pioneers and first movers. But as soon as something negative happens in the main world, then a lot of more people will join us.
Yeah, and that is not because of fear, that is not because of calamities, it is because a better solution is available.
Exactly, yeah. So there's more perspective, yeah.
Is your coin, for instance, I mean, we're talking mostly about the Arnhems Hertje, but there's other initiatives as well. Perhaps you could mention some of them later on, but is it on a blockchain? Is it mostly dependent upon a blockchain technology?
At this moment, not. What we do is you have the characteristics of the money itself, and you have the technical layer on which the registration of the amounts you own or I own are stored, and that are two different layers. And for the technical layer, you can traditionally choose for a central database, which has advantages and disadvantages. The advantage, if I forget my password, I can call somebody and they provide me with a new password, sure. And I can regain access to my
your wealth,
my amount of money.
Yes.
In the blockchain world, that storage of data is dispersed through all community members.
Yes.
And that has advantages and disadvantages as well. The advantage is that we cannot do corrupt actions with it, because when I corrupt my own data, it's on your account and the others are still the right data. So the blockchain recognizes that, oh, I fooled my data, it's not valid anymore. The disadvantage that if you lose your access, nobody can help you, besides of the energy to synchronize more databases. I do not want to emphasize it, but it certainly has a certain effect. To answer your question, at the moment our system is on a traditional database. But in the future, it might be that the same money system we transfer to a different technology-driven database.
I see. So the underlying system, it is transferable to a decentralized system.
Yes. Yeah.
Right now, it's a centralized system, so you can call somebody for your passwords to see.
Yes.
And who is that right now?
Yeah, we have chosen a central party. It's in Utrecht, so in the central part of the Netherlands.
Right.
And they do that for a variety of local communities.
Okay.
And that's the communities we mentioned in Alkmaar, in Utrecht, in Zeist, Nijmegen, Arnhem.
That's a core part of the trust, because if you get somebody in there who all of a sudden starts meddling with the data and says, I'm going to put a couple of zeros somewhere behind all the numbers, that's where you get the inflation, right? That's what's happening with central banking at the moment. Can you explain a little bit how that works and why it works on that scale with this particular organization that you work with?
Yeah, within the group of communities we from Arnhems Hertje are a member of, and that's my personal point of view, we say that the amount of money must be equal to the products or services circulated in that community. Because if you enlarge the money without increasing the service or products, then you get inflation because there's a lot more money.
You get the bubble.
Yeah. And so our community is very conservative about creating money for loans or mortgages.
Yeah.
So at the moment, we do that on a very, very limited scale.
What is very, very limited? What are exceptions, for instance?
Yeah, we give 5,000 or 10,000 euro max loans.
I see.
In a very limited amounts.
Yes.
So basically, what our current system is, we acquire €1, we put it aside, and we put one Arnhems Hertje in circulation.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the limitation of the amount of money we use.
Yeah.
But that's from Arnhems Hertje.
Yeah.
And as a member of Society 4.0, we look to a lot of other systems as well. And there we look also to the stablecoins, flat coins, the advantage of the technical layer, blockchain or no blockchain. And there are a lot of more initiatives worldwide which we study as well. And one of the examples is a circle started in Berlin, and each member gets one circle per hour, so 24 circles in a day. That's a variant of a basic universal income system, because every member can get that.
Sure, yeah.
And they have made regulation or improved that I cannot make 1,000 accounts. That I get 1,000 that amount, so they have their certain checks on that. And we participate in this pilot because we are interested to what extent can a community attach a certain value to the circle. Because when we attach value to it, and I can buy bread with it, and the baker can pay his rents with it, then you have a whole new system where the money is distributed very equally.
Yeah.
So from the point of view of Society 4.0, we as a domain within the payment and banking system are studying this kind of pilots and are involved with them, or to look what happens and what are the effects in the communities we follow.
When you think of how a traditional bank would work, they have your money, and there's a gold-backed variety for it. So it's like, well, at least we have, let's say, on nowadays it's on paper, but let's say it's an actual gold bar that they have put in a safe, and they lock the safe, and nobody can crack the safe, and only the guy with the big key can open it up. And then the only thing that you have to do is prevent it from somebody breaking in, right? Stealing it. Or with digital currencies, and especially if they're centralized, there's a danger for hacking and all that kind of stuff. That is one of the reasons why people would say, well, that's why we want to decentralize, because everything communicates with each other, and one computer says it's this value, but all the other ones say, no, it's not that value. Then you know you have a leak somewhere. That seems to be a flaw with the centralized system. Can you?
Yes, I understand your question.
Yeah.
You could call it a flaw in the centralized systems where the users are anonymous and not known, but we work in a closed community. So if I am the guy who says I have access to the key, and I take all the money in local currency with me, everybody knows it's me because my amount is higher, and it's stolen from the central amounts.
I see. So basically what you're saying is that problem is not a problem as long as your centralized system is transparent.
Exactly.
As long, because everything is in our system, our money system, it's anonymized. You can put all your money in a briefcase and dump it wherever, and nobody knows where it comes from.
To a certain extent, the local systems we use are 180 degrees different from the Bitcoin or the global cryptocurrencies in general, but the Bitcoin is most the pro forma, the standard. The Bitcoin is anonymous. You don't know who owns it. We know exactly who owns an account in local currency.
And do you also know how much is in the account exactly?
Well, the administrator could see it, but we do not know.
Right.
Because that is private information.
Yeah.
The second thing, the Bitcoin is also based on demand and supply. We want to have the value of our local system as stable as possible. That's based on trust. If you compare the Eastern, the Russian market of the ruble in the early years, you had an official conversion factor and an unofficial one.
Right.
The official one is the ones who the government says we want to have it that value.
Yeah.
But the users determine which value it actually has.
Right.
We as a local community say we all together, our members, we all agree on a certain value of the local currency. And if there would be a trust issue, this value would not be sustainable and another value will exist. But because we choose it as a community ourselves, there is no need to have a different value.
Yeah.
So the value is community driven.
Yeah. Another point on the transparency, because there's this new initiative by the European Central Bank. It's called CBDC. People might have heard from it. Central Bank Digital Currencies.
Yeah.
That is mostly based upon the idea of, and it's connected with a whole bunch of other things, but the idea is also based on transparency. The idea is to be able to see where the money comes from and where the money goes. And that is also a centralized system. What is the difference? Of course, there's a difference in scale, because it's CBDC is going to be in Europe. They announced that it's actually going to take place. You're of course working on a regional scale, so much smaller, and of course there's much more trust within a regional scale where everybody knows each other. But how are you preventing the regional scale from also being under control of a system that wants to get money from all the data that is available within that money system?
Yeah, very important question, because but it's not related to money systems only, because every system in which personal data are stored, that may be in the personal data where you're born or where you live, or traffic data when you enter a city and your license plate is photographed, or your bank accounts. Dus all systems where personal information is stored is subject to the question, to what extent is it private, and to what extent you may use it for the community to control individual abuse. And that's a constant dynamic balance.
Yes, yeah.
And I see a perverse attitude from authorities. They say, when we have one exception from a criminal act, we have to have access to all data of the 99% of non-criminal citizens to prevent another one doing the same criminal act.
Yes.
And that balance, I see that is changing in a negative way.
Yeah. If we're talking about the legal system, we always have the mantra of innocence until proven guilty, and what we've seen, for instance, in the COVID period, is that you're sick until you're proven healthy. Right, and that there you see the changing around of those values.
Yeah,
it is that mindset indeed. Yeah,
and that's a general challenge for us in the future, because I see the advantages of the digital registration of data. It makes life much more easier. My personal point of view is, but that's a naive, optimistic point of view. Say, I have nothing to hide, so. What happens? But if there would be an authority who says we are going to ban half Chinese, half Dutch people, and I'm of that group, then I have nothing to hide. But still, I'm the victim of that. But that can be without the digital registration, maybe as well. So it's not an consequence of the registration, but a consequence of the abuse, of the misuse of the data.
I see.
And back to the CBDC, there you have the challenge as well.
Yeah.
But I've investigated what is the reason the CBDC is planned to roll out in the future. I've investigated the reasons, and one of them is, in our current system, we have a lot of, in the mainstream world, we have a lot of banks, and they are connected with a SWIFT payment system, transfer money.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of money transaction fees involved. The Bitcoin and other international global systems have taken already a large part away from these international transactions. So the SWIFT companies, or the companies who are related to SWIFT, lose a lot of money because the transactions they lose. And in my opinion, the CBDC is a counteract to have a more internationalized transaction system with lower fees. And additionally, the challenge of the data stays.
Sure.
Even or in the bank system or in the CBDC system.
Yeah, it's the same challenge but with higher stakes.
Yes, and on our more basic level, we as humans can only overcome this challenge when we are trust-driven and not, and our authorities are not trust-driven anymore. They are mistrust-driven.
Yeah.
And as long as that mindset is not changed, this perverse action will stay. Yeah. Will be put in the police or in the systems or whatever. So it's not CBDC related, it's in the mindset related, can we trust people? And I want to establish a world where we can trust each other.
Yeah. I want to establish that as well. And I ask all my guests from Society Fourth, I'm asking them these questions. I want to move away to a place where I have enough space to build something that is self-sustaining, that is disconnected from all the current systems as much as possible. And on every domain, I want to ask my guests, what tips would you give me? What kind of advice would you give me on how to build on this domain, how to build something that is sustainable and that will help into the future?
Okay, Marco, it's a good question. I will give an answer and explanation you would probably not expect, and I need to give something in the context. Earlier in the interview, I told you I grew up in the Caribbean, and you have a large sand. I was lying there like this, and I saw sailboats. I said, "Oh, I would love to be on a sailboat." And then my neighbor bought a sailboat, so I could sail with him. And I was on that sailboat, and well, it's nice weather, flowing. You're in the flow. But then I saw the shore with all the nice girls, and said, "Oh, I want to be on the shore." So, as humans, we have an intrinsic drive. I don't know where it comes from. I have to investigate. That we want to be somewhere else than where we are. I traveled a lot in the world. I grew up in Caribbean, in the Netherlands. I traveled a lot in the Netherlands as well. And now I'm in the point, my ideal place is where I am now. That's now Arnhem, so I create my ideal place, and I do it not only but with my fellow community members in the place I live. And for everybody that might be a different place. It could be Aalsmeer, it could be Portugal. But the place where you are, that's the place to be.
That's a fantastic answer. I truly believe that. It's you bring yourself wherever you go.
Yeah. And then the second part of the question, that's more when we started with Arnhems Hertje, with the local currency, I thought that would be the end. But it's only an instrument. What's the most important is build a community. We are social beings. We want to communicate. I communicate with you. We communicate with the audience. That is what we humans live for. Our existence cannot be made only. We do it in interaction with each other.
Yes.
So if you go to Portugal or whatever place, the community is key.
I love these two answers, because this is also for the people watching, is not that, and this is also not what I'm recommending, that everybody goes away to a place to seek their own promised land or what. I mean, find your own promised land within yourself, but it's not necessary that you need to move away. It's not necessary that you need to go somewhere else to find luck within your own garden. It might be very well the case that what you live in already has a great potential to build something that might sustain for the future as well. So thank you for those answers. I think with everything that you said about how to build something that will be that little rowing boat on the Titanic as well, you might not need to move away that far. You might already be there.
Yes, and there is a movement you can make, we make. I admired the Buddha sitting on a hill under a tree and meditating. I thought that was the end or the ideal. But at a certain moment I realized you have to reflect and get back with yourself. But afterwards you come down to the hill, go to the village and do what you have to do in co-creation with your community fellow members. So I see, and that's my content flow, meditating, reflecting in my own, and then the learnings or the inner knowing what I acquired, implement in community.
Right. Share the knowledge that you gathered from within.
Yeah, share and also receive the knowledge from other people.
Exactly.
That's also, so I learned from you as well.
Well,
thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing everything. Is there anything that you think, well, you want to give? Maybe perhaps one more time that book that you read?
Yeah, there are two books. The book I recommend, because it's also in the English language available, is from a Belgian banker. He was working for the Belgian National Bank. It's Bernard Lietaer. Mm-hmm. And he wrote a book, I think it's Sustainable Economy or Sustainable Banking Systems. And he's a fan of more currencies. And he makes the analogy between biodiversity and monetary diversity. If you're monoculture, Euro monoculture, yeah, if the monoculture goes down the drain, the whole economy goes down the drain. If you have a diversity of money systems, it stabilizes just like the biodiversity. So I would recommend that book from Bernard Lietaer.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, we'll put a link down in the description so people can look that up. All right, thank you very much for this interview. Thank you for coming to the studio.
You're very welcome. Thanks for the invitation, Marco.
All right, if you like this interview, if you like this conversation, then please give us a thumbs up. And also, if you want to be part of the community, then write something down in the description so, we can interact with each other. Also, if you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out, and we really want to get at least to 1,000 subscribers so we can get that internet payment. We can balance those two. And last but not least, if you want to support the show and you want to support your own health, then have a look at our sponsors, organica-cbd.com, and go to blueearthinnovations.com for our sponsors. And you want to use the code Paradigm Shift for all their products that will stimulate your own health and that will benefit you in the long run. By doing that, you're supporting the show, you're supporting your own health, and you're supporting some great companies. So with all of that said, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.